Hello, and welcome to Your Point, My View, a conversational podcast where every viewpoint matters. My name is Velisa, and I have with me my panel of co hosts. I've got Bobby and Tonya. We're missing Chopper today. He'll be back next time. In this episode, we are going to talk about the let them theory. But before we do that, I want to give my panel a chance to say hello to our audience.
Hello, audience. I'm Tonya.
What's going on, audience? I am Bobby.
And this is our YouTube launch episode. So this is our first episode on YouTube, so do not judge us. Sorry, that was spam. Like I said, look.
We listen and we don't judge.
Right.
Listen and we don't
That was spam. And I love it that I just swipe. I love how to learn how to swipe. It's like I don't even answer spam anymore. This is perfect. I let them.
Oh,
I see what you did there.
okay. You threw it in there.
I feel so rejuvenated when I swipe, but I don't swipe everybody. I don't swipe y'all. But anyway, I just want to say, so just to lead in with this, I learned about the let them theory while listening to a Mel Robbins podcast. And she also has a book about it. And right now, this is actually a hot topic. If you surf the internet, people surf anymore, but if you scroll on the internet, I just told my age, but you will be able to find a lot of people talking about this. So that's why I wanted to talk about it on our show. So when I heard this theory, I had an immediate mental and emotional reaction because I've been trying to work on this for years. And I spend so much time, energy, focus, money, trying to get people to show up in our lives, how we want them to appear and meet our expectations. And many times that just leaves me exhausted. So the let them theory premise, simply put, is let people be who they are, and you get to choose what you do next. You can't control people, so don't let people's behaviors or choices control you. So with that being said, I am going to hand it over to my co-host, Bobby, who has a special treat for you.
All right. So there is a poem I would like to read. It is by Cassie Phillips, and the title of it is Let Them. Just let them. If they want to choose something or someone over you, let them. If they want to go weeks without talking to you, let them. If they are okay with never seeing you, let them. If they are okay with always putting themselves first, let them. If they are showing who they are and not what you perceive them to be, let them. If they want to follow the crowd, let them. If they want to judge or misunderstand you, let them. If they act like they can't live without you, or if they can live without you rather, let them. If they want to walk out of your life and leave, hold the door open and let them. Let them lose you. You were never theirs because you were always your own. So let them. Let them show you who they truly are, not tell you. Let them prove how worthy they are of your time. Let them make the necessary steps to be a part of your life. Let them earn your forgiveness. Let them call you to talk about ordinary things. Let them take you out on a Thursday. Let them talk about anything and everything just because it's you they are talking to. Let them have a safe place in you. Let them see the heart in you that didn't harden. Let them love you.
Wow. Thank you, Bobby. Who's that by again?
That is by Cassie Phillips.
Okay, I found that on the internet, and I thought that was to me, it resonated once again with me, especially that first part, because those are like some of the negative behaviors that you have to really kind of focus and control and let people do what they're going to do. And then towards the bottom, you got kind of some positive behaviors, because you got to let people be positive too, because they show up sometimes in a way you need them to show up because of who you are. And they may be helping you out. So before we get into the nitty gritty of this, I want to paint a picture for everybody. So in the middle of the room, there's a table. There's nothing around it. So that means there's a lot of space around in the room. So keep that in mind. That's a key factor. Now on the table, there's a square box, and the only opening is a hand-sized hole in the front of the box. So picture in the box a frying pan that can be heated. I don't know how it gets heated. That's not the point. So magical or whatever. But
Okay.
in that frying pan, all the issues you have with other people's bad behavior sit in that frying pan. Just think of the issues of bad behaviors are put on a piece of paper and they're
Mm-hmm.
just folded up, tiny and in that frying pan. So that's what I want you to think about. So you've got the table, box, hole in the box, in the frying pan. And those bad behaviors could be people who don't have any drive and ambition to change their lives, but they're constantly moaning about it. People who don't show up in your life for one reason or another. People who spend their bill money on other things and then come to you when the bills are due and ask you for
Okay.
money. Friends who cancel on you all the time at the last minute. People who you constantly send an invite to who just don't who never show up to your home. You have an event and they never show up. They always got a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about our family and loved ones who make terrible choices and we can see the danger and the pitfalls ahead, and we try to stop them? The list can go on and on, right? So all these issues are written on a piece of paper, folded into tiny pieces in that frying pan. Now, picture you putting your hand in a box and holding on to the handle of that frying pan because that's the pan holds all those issues. And every time one of those issues happens in this, you're impacted, the pan heats up and so on and so forth. So all those issues start heating up and because you're feeling some kind of way about it. You have some type of emotion that's conjured up by the behaviors. And they're constant behaviors. These are not one time, these are constant behaviors. Now, picture all the behaviors heating up and the handle heating up as well. And the handle just gets hotter and hotter. Instead of you letting the pan go, you try to control the heat in some way. You may be shifting the pan around a bit. You probably might even take your hand out for a little bit, right? Blow it off and try to, cool it down. But guess what you do? You stick your hand
Go right back.
right back in your
Right.
box, right back in the box. And some people manipulate it. Sometimes if you got sleeves, you pulling it, you're trying to get the pan and you're grabbing something hot to cover the heat. But those behaviors are still there. The heat is still there. So what I'm trying to say is that the only way to control the heat is to let it go and walk away. So when you stop trying to control the heat, you control your behavior and you let their responses be their responses. That's talking about that. Let them. You're free to move around that room. Remember, I talked about how that room is just big, there's nothing there. Because now you're
Right.
attached to that pan of behaviors, those hot behaviors, those hot buttons that just burns you. Not saying you don't care, but because you have changed your behavior and your thought process and your mindset, you're able to practice letting them, let them be them. And you're not directly hurt or impacted, or you're impacted and hurt less. So let them not pay their bills, let them cancel when you just have a backup plan because you know who they
Yeah.
are, right? Let
Right.
people make their own bad choices and decisions. Let them. So I've introduced it. Bobby read a nice poem. So let's get to the nitty gritty. What do you think, panel? What was on your mind when you listened to her podcast and started reading about this theory and thinking about it in your own life?
Well, you had told us to come up with some things that we need to let go of or let them. And the first thing that came to mind is for me, I have family members who got things going on in their health and they refuse to go to the doctor to check on it. I don't know what the
Yeah.
problem is. I'm like calling them, they're sniffling, they're coughing. I'm like, can you please go to the doctor? Oh, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. And I get frustrated. And after hearing the theory, I realized that, you know what? Let them. Let them be sick. Let them deal with the mucus in their body, you know? And, every day you call, you check on them, cough and hack it, and just let them be. That's the way they want to be. They feel good about it. They're okay. So let them.
Yeah, you can't make
And
grown folks do grown folks stuff.
I know. And
Facts.
and I think it's that fear, that fear that something's going to happen that I'm going to have to pick up and take care of. And so you're trying to avoid that, but you can't because they're going to do it anyway.
You
So
saying
you
that you don't let them because you are fearful of what might happen and then what the impact on you is? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
That's
because
your
I'm
fear? Okay.
responsible
Mm-hmm.
for taking, because if there's a close, significant person in your life, you feel that I'm responsible for taking care of you because I'm the person that's going to be their caretaker. So you're just like, well, okay, I don't want to have to go through that. Take care of yourself. Go to the doctor. Get your checkups. What's going on.
How does that make you feel when you don't let them and that behavior is there
I'm
constantly?
exhausted. My energy is gone. My focus is gone because I keep ruminating about what they're not doing, and then I'm not taking care of myself. So,
Hmm.
you have to let them be. We really do, because then you end up, going further down than they are because they okay with it. They really okay.
Right? Because they're doing what they want to do.
Mhm.
So we're
Mhm.
the ones like, come on now, that pen, we got that pen. We're not letting it go.
Well, and then I can shift that on myself. Like, I need to be conservative with my weight. I've been told by significant others, you need to get healthy. You need to eat right. You need to, take your medicine or whatever. And, I might or I might not do what I'm supposed to. But, that's my choice. Just like, somebody else's is their choice. But you just got to let them. And then everybody got to make their own choices and decisions. That's what's best for them. And some people might not be ready.
That's a key point
That's a
too.
good point.
They're
That's a
not
very good
ready.
point.
Yep, they're not ready. They fall enough, they fail enough, they'll it'll resonate with them at some point in time. Just like with someone who has an addiction, you can't push them to overcome that addiction or get help for that addiction or stop that addiction. That has to come from them. You can offer that support once they decide and say, hey, I'm ready to move forward. But the frustration of trying to help somebody who are going through, whether it's an addiction, a toxic relationship, what have you, that's burnout mode for me. So
Hmm.
that's why I said
Hmm.
this was great. Bobby, do you have any? Did you come up with anything?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Share.
Yeah, I had a couple. So the first one was dealing with one of my loved ones. They came to me and stated that, hey, going through this particular relationship seems to be going well, but it's not, it's on and off, on and off. And as someone that they confide in for advice, I said my piece and gave them advice. Hey, you know, why don't you try doing this? If this doesn't work, try doing this. Well, the relationship got emotionally and verbally abusive, not physical, at least to that point yet. And so this person kept coming to me and talking about their issues, and I was like, well, just leave. And before that happened, um, something drastic happened in that relationship, and uh, they broke up, right? So I'm like, okay, this is a good thing, right? My loved one's good, they're protected, no issues. They went through some hardships, but that's fine. I would say less than 2 days later, they're back together. Now, this cycle, that it turned into a cycle, and this cycle lasted for several months. They go through issues, they get back together, but it kept getting progressively worse. And instead of me just letting them or letting this loved one do that thing, um, I kept inserting myself into something that I really didn't know about. I only knew one side of the story, didn't know the other side, right?
Hmm.
And it took me a while to realize that, hey, that's not really fair. Just because I have a connection with one person, I don't know if my loved one's being verbally or emotionally abusive to that other person, causing that rift. And then that leads me to, say, hey, that's not my place. All I can do is give my opinion, but at the end of the day, they have to make the decision, and I have to be okay with it.
Hmm.
Um, and so eventually I got to that point, and I was like, I'm all right. I'm going to let them. And eventually, they just stopped the relationship altogether. I stopped giving advice. They would bring up the situation, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, you'll figure it out, and just leave it at that. There was
Is that
no
what you said
extra,
though? Or did you have,
huh?
did you say you were figured out, or did you just, how did you, is
Yeah.
that what you said? Or,
No, I was, I showed empathy first, saying, I'm sorry that you're going through that because that's important, establishing the empathy because you don't want to see a loved one going through a rough patch and having them feel like they're forced to go back and attach themselves to something that is negative for companionship. So you don't want to do that, or at least lead on to that. So showing empathy is one of the things I've worked on. So I would say like, hey, sorry that you're going through that, but I would immediately follow it up with, hey, y'all talk it out, figure it out. It is your life. You figure it out and do what's best for you. And I leave it at that. There's no extra, you know, no
Mhm.
extra. So that was one example. The other example, obviously, is with my son, because my son's in college and kids do what kids do, right? And my son is very notorious for leaving things in his clothes for some reason. I don't understand why. But as far from pens to pencils, something's going to get found. So home one day from college, he's washing his clothes. He comes to his mom and myself and says, man, I messed up two of my hoodies. Now, these are hoodies that we've purchased with our money, for him. Not. I mean, they're expensive enough, but they're of value, right? And he was like, I messed up my hoodies, and he showed them to us. Now, in the past, I would have said, well, how did you let this happen? I probably would have gone on a tangent. How could you let this happen? Didn't you check your clothes? What's going on? You're too old for this, right? Um, but I didn't do that. You know, with him, I understand that, and I'm working on this, being an enabler is something that
Mm.
that I am in nature because he's my only child and he's my only son. So I want the best for him, right? But as the podcast mentioned, if I keep doing things for him, I'm stripping him of the right to learn on his own.
Mhm.
So instead of getting mad and talking about the money and what we spend and your responsibility and why didn't you do this and that, I said, okay, that's fine. What are your next steps? So I asked him an open-ended question. He said, well, I guess I'm going to have to save up my money and buy a couple more. Excellent answer. Okay, go throw those away and you're good to go. So that's a big step from what I'm used to doing as far as being that enabler. And yeah, you just got to let them make the mistakes so they can understand the magnitude of them. And then on their own, either reach out for help or assistance if it's too big of a problem to handle, or come up with their own solutions to rectify the situation.
Mhm.
That's a good point because you're right. You brought up a good point. You robbed him of the experiences of learning because
Mm-hmm.
if he continue to mess it up, and oh, dad about me some more, he'll never pull a pen out or whatever. I found a lighter in my dryer because people don't pull stuff out their pockets, so they had a lighter in there. But you're gonna blow us up. It's like, but so I wouldn't have let them. That was like, come on now, stop.
Yeah.
There's some things we don't talk about. 'Cause that's me being directly impacted.
Right.
I know my one thing I thought about is that what bothers me so much about my family is I'm an only child. So growing up, my mom and my aunts lived in the same apartment complex. So that meant holidays, 4th of July, Christmas, all those days were at somebody's house grilling because we were
Yeah.
like right next to each other almost. So my cousins and I grew up almost like brothers and sisters. But still, I'm just the only child aspect. So the one thing that I thought about was a Christmas that was, I don't even remember what I got for Christmas, but the memory was spending time with my family and playing Pictionary. I remember what I wore, but I don't remember what anything else about it as far as the gifts or anything. Because see, that wasn't important. The memory, the experience of being with my family, playing Pictionary, that was precious to me. So I'm always trying to recreate this with my kids, my grown folk kids. And nobody wants to show up. Nobody wants to
Mm.
call and say, oh, I'm not going to make it. I want to have family game night. People don't want to come over for one reason or another or don't show up. And that bothers me to my core because I'm like, family, come on now, y'all, show up. We should be making traditions of our own. If I or your dad pass away, or both of us are just, together, are you going to have anything that holds you together? Where is going to be the glue? Because you're not there now for one another. I mean, some people come together when there's tragedy, yeah, and then they grow. But I want to experience it while I'm here. I want to play Pictionary again with my kids and maybe grandkids one day. So what I was saying is I'm always feeling so mad when they don't show up, when they don't care about the things of tradition, family, when they just, and I won't say don't care because kids nowadays show it differently. It's they
Hmm.
don't value it. That's what bothers me. And I have to get to a point where if they don't want to come, let them. You deal with who's ever there, whoever took the time to show up for you. Build a relationship with that person. And then later on, as people mature and probably maybe have families of their own, maybe they'll come to understand and value that time with family. And then we'll start to have those traditions. But it used to bother me so much. And I started thinking about this theory, but I was calling it something else. I was just saying I ain't inviting y'all to nothing else no more. Anybody that kind of, so that was my lesson, getting
That's
the
messed up.
attitude. I'm like, I ain't calling no more. I ain't texting nothing. Y'all gonna call me.
Oh man.
And so, because you get that way after a while because you're frustrated because your time is valuable as
Correct.
well. And you care. And you care. And you want them to care. But this let them theory said, okay, you know what? If they don't want to come, let them. If they have something else to do. One time my son told me his girlfriend was coming in town. And I'm like, okay, well bring her by. Well, okay. He ain't come back. But I
Mm.
had invited him first and then she showed up. But anyway, that's where
Hmm.
his time and effort and energy was put. And I felt some kind of way about it. But I had to get to a point, and I'm still working on this. They're grown. They have lives of their own. They are not obligated to spend time with me. I value it. I want it. I want them to want it. But the point is, I have to let them live their lives, let them be who they are and accept them where they are. Maybe they haven't gotten to that maturity level where it's important. So that's one thing that I have got to let them because that impacts me. I'm mad. I don't want to invite nobody to nothing else. I don't want to have anything else at the house. I don't want to do that. So, but instead of going all left field, it's like, okay, whoever shows up, love on them, care and put that energy into them because that may be an opportunity to build that one-on-one relationship and take advantage of it. So that's my example of trying to let them.
I have a similar thing, but it's kind of shifted a different way. Like, um, it wasn't that I invited somebody, I didn't get invited. And
Hmm.
so because I didn't get invited, I felt some kind of way. And um in the frustration of not getting invited. And after uh how could you say debriefing with a friend, Lisa, um I still had that just kind of like just kind of how could you say in your throat like I cannot believe this, you know.
Yeah.
And but now just in retrospect and applying this theory, let them, let them not invite you. Let them, because you may not have been as valuable to them as you are to them, as they are to me, and I had to accept that. And that took a lot to accept that and it also gives you a point of reference to reflect upon why is it why was the disconnect. And then I started to think back about how my life trajectory was a little bit different than some of my family's life trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say, for instance, maybe I don't do all the things that some of my family does, and so that would denote a different type of experience. So even though you might be, maybe they don't want I won't say the goody two shoe girl at the event, or, maybe they might feel uncomfortable. I mean, these are some of the things I kind of looked at. I started to really, really begin to accept it and look at the relationships and how, it's sometimes it's okay to grow apart. You know, you and like kind of like what Lisa said, you think about how it was when you were younger, but you're older now and things change and change is inevitable. And what does that mean? Is it if it's a disconnect, maybe it's not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? And because we always want to look for the bad, but it might be a okay thing. It's stronger, it's different, and then you can appreciate it a little bit more. And then when you do get the invite, maybe it's important to have, or maybe it's a little bit more valued. So you want to look at things like that. Um, and then it could be just simply that, it's a monetary thing, know, and you had to cut people off, and maybe because the relationship wasn't as close or connected, not any disrespect, but maybe because of that, that's why, you weren't given that invite. And I'm talking about significant events in people's lives.
So your
Yeah.
expectations weren't met because you expected to get an invite, and when you didn't, you felt some kind of way. So that goes back to our expectations and people not showing up the way we want them to show up. But you brought up a good point too, that's talked about in some of the conversations, not just in Mel's podcast, but let people be who they are. You probably have to just meet them where they are and accept this is who that person is. And the only person you're going to frustrate each and every time that person demonstrates that behavior is who?
Yourself.
Yourself. Yeah. That is
Yeah.
that is a
That's
constant struggle of mine.
yeah.
It really is because and I keep going back to my son. It's because we have a really good dialogue for the most part. But just like when it comes to sports or when it comes to certain things, we have our say, right? Um, but I would say that a part of me, and this is just my self assessment, a part of me wants to be right,
Mm.
and that's obvious, right? A part of me wants to be right whenever I am having an argument or a disagreement or whatever the case may be. But a part of me also wants to be heard. So being right is just saying, hey, I'm just trying to justify my point because you're wrong. And that's me trying to control the situation. That's me trying to manipulate the fire by taking my hand off, putting it back in, trying to move some pieces around, and things of that nature. But the other part of that is me just trying to be heard. Like, hey, I understand where you're coming from and I validate your opinion, I validate your statements, but hear me out. But I'm still trying to control the situation. It's like cooking on a grill. You got indirect heat and you got direct heat. You know what I'm saying? But you're still in control, right?
But that's interesting, Bobby, because there's a part of development and that maturity and being an adult where he has to not listen to you sometimes.
Correct. And that's why I was running into the thing because it's like, okay, at the end of the day, the standard that I'm always going to have over my son is that I'm still the parent. And
Correct.
so, based on life's experiences, depending on the conversation and how it goes, this is it. Like, this is a standard. This is what we're going by. But that's not always the case. My son, I don't want to strip him of his voice and his opinion and how he's able to express himself by smothering him with a whole bunch of jabber just to make myself feel good. Because again, that's me trying to control the narrative, control the situation for me. But if I let him, he can come to a realization on himself. And like you stated before, he can be himself, and that's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. He doesn't need to be a cookie cutter version of me. I don't want him to be. He's fearfully and wonderfully made. He's unique in the eyesight of God. So it's like he needs to embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will there be bumps along the way? Yeah. And do I want him to take a lot of them? I don't. But if he does, I want him to learn, because there is no lose. You either win or you learn. That's how I look at it. You win or you learn. And so that comes back full circle with me. Why am I trying to control this dude's life? Why am I trying to keep him from all the hurt, harm, and danger? And that
Because you love
filters
them.
into other relationships, as far as working relationships with peers, people that report to me, in my marriage, just constant conversations. Because when I get to a point where I'm trying to say something, sometimes intrusive thoughts will win, and that's not a good thing. The Lord's still working on me on that. But I may feel satisfied, but look at the damage I've done, all because I'm trying to control the narrative and not let them be them in that moment. And I'm not taking the time to process it. Like, is this really a big problem? Is this for me? Can I accept the fact that they're going to do what they're going to do, and that's okay? It may not be okay. It may not be justifiably okay, but I have to accept it, because it kind of is what it is.
I like what you said. You analyzed it. Is it really as big a problem as I'm thinking it is or could be? Because remember,
Yeah,
sometimes we try to save people. Say he
that's
talked
me.
about, talked about. I think we all have some this savior mentality in because we care about people, right? He talked about
Hmm.
people. Talked about her loved ones who won't go to the doctor. That stresses us out, not only because now the impact of whatever is going on with them because they don't know now and it's bigger later, but because we care. We don't want anything to happen to them. So there are times that we have to intervene. And even though people are bringing their authentic self to the table and we let them be their authentic self, there are times when we have to intervene and not let people be themselves because we're saving them, or not let people be themselves or let them because now you're impacting me, you're bringing harm to me or others, and now I have to step in. Like when some of those things that were brought up is talking about if you bring someone's being discriminated against, you don't let that happen.
Right.
You intervene as much as you can to deter the situation. If somebody's doing something dangerous, drinking and driving, oh, all right, you want to drink and drive, go right ahead. She want to drink and drive, go right ahead. No, you're not going to let them. You're going to take those keys, you're going to do whatever you need to do to stop that behavior, because that's dangerous, because it doesn't just impact them. They're on the road with a vehicle and it can impact a number of people. So, and then here's the thing too, and I know we've all had to do this at some point, when you have to advocate for your rights, whether you're at work,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in a relationship, wherever you are, when you have to advocate for you, you don't let them. People don't get, you don't let people, they don't get to do that. So you have to let you in that case, in that case. So that's why, so there are any other times that you can think, okay, yeah, we have to let people be people, meet them where they are, and not be that controlling factor because it just messes up the relationship. Any other times where you believe or can think about where it's dangerous, you can't just do it. You can't just let them.
Hmm.
I named a few where you don't bring out the I'm the superhero kind of thing. But
I think the only thing that I could think of is an example that you gave, where someone is putting their life in danger, right? And you have a moral code to yourself and to that person to not allow that to happen. If you value that person, not the relationship, if you value the person, the soul, enough, and if you value yourself enough to make sure that no harm comes to them, especially if it's self-inflicted, yeah, you're going to step in. You're going to do it. That's not being selfish. That is that's doing what you have to do to make sure that the safety of the other party and others is achieved. So I think that's the only thing I could think of. I have come across several examples in my past where people are like, I'm just going to end it all, or maybe I'm thinking about suicide, or I'm thinking about taking my own life. I shouldn't be here anymore. And it, like you said, I'm not trying to put on a cape and say I'm Captain Save a Person. That's not me. But what I am saying is, hey, I am a resource. I can point you to the source. So in order for us to do that together, let's talk. let's meet. Like, like things of that nature. I'm easing my way into it because you never know what the other person may be going through. That's another reason why sometimes you have to kind of watch it when you let them, kind of look at the circumstances in which are happening around them. Because if you let them, then it could lead to something that, they can't come back from. So yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds like you have to have balance and to be discerning because you
Yeah, you
really
have to
have
be
to pay
discerning.
attention to
Yes.
people. So when you're walking by, and when we were all in office, and or you on the street, and you talk to somebody, and you especially a friend, oh, how you doing? And before they can even say anything, you down the you keep walking, and you don't stop. You don't get a chance to look and see, because I remember, Bobby, you said one time people can say one thing, but their facial expression can tell a
Show
whole nother
another.
story. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to be discerning enough and care enough to stop and not just keep walking. Look at the person, figure out if there's something else behind that fake smile or that mask smile. So you can't always let them. So um, that's just something I thought about, because people will sometimes say, "Hey, how you doing?" and they're gone or talking to somebody else while they're saying how you doing to you. Then they're not
Yeah.
really interested in how you are doing. And I think, Bobby, you said something one time, how I'm doing in the
How I'm
moment.
feeling and how I'm doing is
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
those two questions are different. How
Hmm.
you doing is common conversation, but how you're feeling, it attaches emotion to it. And that's something where you can actually open up the door to a lot of things that could be beneficial to the person that's expressing themselves and to you, being able to be that listening ear. But again, like you said, Velisa and Tonya, you said it too, there has to be a balance,
Hmm.
because if you don't have that discernment of knowing whether to let them be for your sake and for theirs, or to intervene because their life's in danger, then that puts you in a bit of a predicament. So
I think also for me, where it's a situation where you can't let them is like even like a work situation where discrimination is happening. And
mhm.
I think you have to speak out, to bring it to attention, and I think that's just for individuals who are a part of marginalized populations. If you're in a workspace and someone is using discriminatory or derogatory language, you have to speak up about that. You have to be able to show up. And in some instances, you can't let them. You can't let them get away with that. And I think that, especially now in these days, it can be challenging, And then I want to speak to this because in some situations where you're in a work environment where maybe there is discrimination happening, and let's just say you might be overlooked, um, in some instances, it can be beneficial to let them.
You let them
I hate
overlook
to
you.
say it, but
Yeah,
um,
Project anyway.
I mean,
right.
cause
What's the person?
I mean, you, you know,
Hey,
you,
what working anyway,
you,
man?
I mean,
Shit.
I'm like sitting here like, okay, well, you don't want to give me that assignment, okay,
Let you.
let you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you want to give it to somebody else who don't know what they're doing, let you,
Yeah.
let you. Let you experience the uneducated person or the not so experienced person doing the work because you feel that they can do it better because of maybe how they look, or they look more like you. But those things, in certain situations, not to say we have to be a little bit more astute about things, but we have to be more mindful. Is this the a situation that I need to not let them, or is this a situation I need to let them?
How do you get to that acceptance, T? You had
Um,
shared something with us
I think for
about on a
me,
cheat sheet, that radical cheat.
yeah, radical acceptance, and that's like a from didactical behavior therapy, which is called DBT by Marshall Linden. She worked with individuals who were uh, had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorders. And this theory has been so adapted, and a part of the DBT skill sets deal with part of a strategy called radical acceptance.
Hmm.
And so I believe I gave you guys a cheat sheet of
Mm-hmm.
radical
Yeah.
acceptance. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to pull
Yeah.
it up here. But some of the things in radical acceptance really kind of sticks to you know, accepting a situation or event or a reality without judgment, resistance, or attempting to change it. It means recognizing and acknowledging the truth of what is happening, even if it's difficult, painful, and letting go of the urge to fight against it. And in some situations, especially like this really speaks to, like I said, what's kind of going on now. In certain workplaces, you kind of have to let it happen and accept it, that this is what's going on. And that's that radical accepting, acknowledging the reality, understanding the cause,
What?
you
Why?
know um
What's happening?
what's happening, embracing your feelings about it.
Now, that's one thing that people will strip people away in the let them thing is their feelings. You might
Yeah.
not agree with them, but there's some validity there. They feel that way for a certain reason. So that's one
Right.
thing that I saw about the acceptance. I just wanted to say that because I feel that way sometimes too. Don't tell me not to feel that way.
And I think that that's
Don't tell me calm
something
down. Oh, that's it.
that you have to deal with. No, but that is something that you have to deal with. And sometimes you need to take a moment,
Hmm.
to process that, to really. I had to take a moment I spoke up. I wrote a great email. But I had to take a moment. And sometimes you need to vent, you need to let it go. And you need to have some coping, skills in that. It just don't happen overnight. This is hard work. Letting
It
go
is.
is hard. Letting them is hard.
Is
As,
venting letting go? Part of letting
yeah.
go, venting?
Well, it depends. For some people, it
Yeah.
could be. It
Depends.
could
There's a
be.
positive and a negative way to vent.
Exactly. Um,
Hmm.
and
But I would say but before you continue, Tony, I would say though, I said that there was a positive and negative way to vent. But if you're going to continue to hold on to the residuals, you have more work to do.
thank you. That's a great point. And part of holding on to the residuals is carrying it with you, your
Hmm.
baggage,
Yeah.
and you won't let it go. And then who are you really harming in that moment?
You, because you're carrying it around. They
You,
don't. You
they,
haven't.
they
You
free.
exactly.
They free.
You holding on
Like
to that frying pan.
we was putting.
Yeah.
Remember we did that exercise with the baggage, and my bag was big,
She
and
had a lot of stuff.
I
Yeah.
had shoot, I think I had what detergent of stuff.
We had to put a certain amount of weight in the backpack. Before we put that weight in the backpack, we had to label it. So whether it was something we were carrying around that wasn't ours, whether it was, or if it was some things that was ours, but we weren't taking care of it, it was still weighing us down in life. And so we put stickies on everything, and we had weights. T bought two big things of detergent for her
Right.
weights, and she had other stuff too. And you just made that as heavy as possible. And I think I had maybe like 50 or 60 pounds worth of weight on my back. And then when we start packing that, we were talking about and really analyzing, and this could go right into the let them. Is this yours to hold on?
Right.
Is this car payment that's not being paid? It ain't your car. And you keep coming in and swooping it and helping that person. Is that yours to hold on to?
And
No,
I
take
think
that weight out.
and I think the beautiful thing about that activity that we did, Lisa, was the fact that you were able to have compassion for yourself because you were carrying around this big doggone heavy bag.
She had Purex.
I
It was
mean,
tied. I don't
I
know.
was like, it was a back breaking bag. And
You did have the most weight.
I know. And then I felt like, oh my God, no wonder I'm struggling. No wonder I'm bent over. No wonder I'm stressed because I'm carrying all of this. And then I finally decided to be my own friend and have some compassion for myself because obviously I'm having so much compassion for everybody else. I'm carrying stuff, but I ain't carrying nothing for me. And so that's when you have to practice, like with radical acceptance, you have to practice that self compassion and then reflect on the situation, which me and Lisa talk about a lot, just looking back and reflecting, like, where were we? How can we do this different? How can we make a change? And that's real key, really looking back. And I think that's the beauty of the let them theory, is that it allows you the opportunity when you let them go to really reflect and look at your own self. And
Oh, great.
and if it's
Yeah.
practiced, that's the benefit of it. And then you can make a different decision for you.
And I like too that once you start doing that and letting them, you develop coping mechanisms because you have developed ways to, okay, when this happens, when this behavior shows up, because you can't change the behavior, right? But
No,
when it shows up, what do?
right.
That's the let them thing. So what have you put in place to say, okay, when such and such does this, here is how I'm going to, I may still feel the same way, but here's how I'm going to handle and control me. So those are
The
some of the things.
response.
In response, yeah. So does anybody have any? So because I asked everyone to do this over the week or so that we were looking into this, and did anybody come up with any coping mechanism they can share with other people?
I mean, in the situations that I went through, because I didn't name all of them, but in the situations that I went through where I found myself doing extra, like I was being too extra, and it got to the point where I was on the verge of being petty. So when it gets to that point, or when it got to that point, I just took a step back and said, okay, Bobby, you listen to this podcast. If there's one thing you've learned, it's just not to hold on to anything. You really have to focus on how is this really affecting me? Is it my problem? And whose business am I in?
Right.
Now when there's situations where it's work related, it's more difficult for me to deal with them as far as business, because in my mind, their business is my business because they are a reflection of me. However, and I'm talking about peers, specialists, whatever, right? But I also have to look at it like this. Their behaviors are not my behaviors. And so there has to be a divide. I'm still a leader, but in being a leader, I have to be able to have that discernment and say, hey, you know what? If someone is saying that they don't want to participate in an event or whatever the case may be, that's fine. Why is it beating you up so bad? Why are you in their business like that? You don't know what's going on with them. Have you tried to figure out what's going on with them? Even if you've had conversations, is it really that serious? It's not. It's not worth your time, Bobby. It's not worth your energy. It's not worth your effort. Focus on you. So I'm
Yep.
having all these conversations with myself.
Right.
Thank goodness I work in a big enough office and there's no one here. I'm having these conversations with myself. And eventually I get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I don't have to worry about it. It'll all work out. And I learned how to pivot. I learned how to do a 180. I learned how to stop, process, and then compartmentalize, because that should not be my focus. Because as y'all mentioned before, I will end up stripping myself of my own peace
Mm-hmm.
to prove a point that doesn't even need to be proven by me. Just let things play out. Let people be them, and it'll be good. And it happened multiple times this week, whether I was in traffic or at home dealing with like minuscule things or whatever the case may be. It just happened, but I was able to stop, process it, kind of talk my way through it, and pivot. Because at the end of the day, it's really not worth me losing my peace.
I think for me, I realized how much energy it took from me. And so, like, I was able to stop the energy from moving and rising, and I was able to rest. And then
Mhm.
when I was able to rest, I realized I got a lot of time. And it was like, remember, because I was so caught up in it, I was complaining about I don't have this to do for myself. And then I realized after I rested, because you don't realize how much energy it takes from you, that, oh, I could, I got stuff to do for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I could do this for me. And then I started getting stuff accomplished. And I didn't realize how much time it was taking from me, where my focus and my energy. And you have to, if you're in that, like, I won't say that, what do you call that? That wheel, the little hamster wheel of going
Yeah.
through this with them. You have to have, because you're, think of the hamster just going, 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 going. Well, if the hamster gets off the wheel, the hamster gonna be tired. So to
Right.
be able to rest and then look at, okay, I'm not on the wheel no more. Oh my God, I got a little bit of time. What am I gonna do? Oh, I got stuff to do for me. And so then you start to figure out what you could do for yourself. And then you get your life back. And then you're like, oh my God, I feel like myself again. Because when you're not letting, you're letting, when you're letting, well, when you're taking on them, you know, bringing them on and not letting them, then you end up being, tired with baggage. And just letting them and letting it go, it's just a beautiful thing. You get your energy back. You get your life back.
Yeah.
I know with me over the last 2 weeks, I have reflected a lot because I've put a kind of like a stop gate in recognizing when I'm trying to hold on and control. It's like I can feel it. I can feel myself holding on because I tense up. I'm like, and I'm going a mile a minute. What if this? What is that? What if that? What if this? What if this happens because you didn't do this? And that's when I say you, I mean them didn't do this or take care of something. And I had to stop in the moment. I mean, when I say stop, stop, talk to myself, Lisa,
Hmm.
because I call myself Lisa sometimes. My name's Lisa,
Yeah.
but anyway, but I said, this ain't yours. Stop owning everything. You stop putting your hands on everything, on everybody's stuff.
Yeah.
Stop robbing them of their experiences because they're not going to learn. Let them fail and fail forward so they learn and they get up and they want to keep going. So I always had to just stop. I mean, sometimes if it's even physically stop, do whatever I'm doing and just like hands off. And seriously, in my head, it's like a trigger. When I'm thinking about it, I have to stop. And that's what I've been trying to do because it's allowing me to say and put things into perspective and say, this isn't yours. Stop. Go do something that's go do something that you're supposed to do. Go get in your own business.
And I like what you
Yeah.
said, Lisa. Let them fail forward.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
because you want to offer that support. I mean, you don't want anybody to fall and stay down, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I said when you fall forward, at least you're moving in the right
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
direction. You can get up and not falling backwards. But it's like we find that you find out what triggers you when someone does something, and then you figure out how you react. How do you typically react in that situation? Do you like I put on my Wonder Woman cape and my hands on my arm, my 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 hips with my arm like Wonder Woman, ready to lasso somebody. And I'm like, this is not yours. And I had to really talk myself out of situations over the last 2 weeks. And it has helped me let them, because when I let them, I allowed me. I got my workouts
Oh,
in.
yes.
I like that.
Did
Yes.
some other
I
things
like
that
that.
I wanted to do for me because I'm like, my family's grown. I should have time for just me. And I'm like, why
Hmm.
Yes.
don't I? And I had to reflect and say, it's because of you that you don't have time. It's not
Exactly.
them. Nobody's asking you to get up and put the dishes in the dishwasher and sweep the floors and mop and do all this before you get ready to go work out. And then before you go to work, it's nobody's asking you to do that. You doing that. Then you get mad when people don't help. It's
Right.
7 o'clock in the morning. I gotta go to work. That's what they're saying. Why do I have to stop and do all this? But
Because they know you're gonna do it for them.
Mm.
because exactly.
That was my revelation. They knew I was gonna come through for them regardless. And man, that's because I don't like to see things undone.
Mhm.
That's just my preference. I'm like, okay, if it's undone, at least I can take blame for it and say it's on me. But if someone else has a hand in it, I'm like, you know what, just move out the way. I'll get it done myself.
And that's what they're waiting
I
for.
can try to, yeah, I just do it myself, whatever. So I get what you're saying with that. But at the end of the day, if it's not yours, why you touching it? That's one thing my mom would always say growing up. Yeah. Is that yours? That belong to you? You got your name on it?
Make your own
Then,
business.
then why you did mind your business? Why
Right.
you touching it? So you kind of have to use that in our adult life now. Okay, does this conversation, does this situation have your name on it?
Mm.
If it's not yours,
Don't
then why
touch
you
it.
messing with it? Don't touch it. Let it be. It's gonna play out. It's gonna be the same. Or like my dad was saying, it was like that when you got there. It's gonna be like that when you leave.
Yep.
So it's gonna be like that, like that. Like it's gonna be like that whenever you interject yourself. And guess what? It's a possibility that when you stop talking, that person's gonna still do the same thing. They're gonna display the same behaviors. They're gonna go back to the same person. They're gonna keep asking for money. They're gonna do all these other things after you done gave your whole soliloquy on the right way to do it. But that's your way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay if it's for you.
It works.
And you have to be okay with that. And so, yeah, that's why I stand with it.
I like, Bobby, what you said one time a little earlier. You said, let it play out. Because just because
Yeah.
it comes back to what you just said, that's the way, just because it works, just because your way works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for
Works for
somebody
everybody
else.
else.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so when you let it play out, sometimes we work up things and we 10 or 20 steps ahead because we've gone through it and we're all these other scenarios. What if you do this? What if you do that? What if you do this? What has happened? What if this happened? But what if none of that happens and it plays out the right way?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let
Have
them.
you
Right?
now how much energy, time, and focus to have you
Right.
To
spent in
be
this?
wrong.
Because it was, you
Right.
know what? Because it wasn't your business.
Right.
So you should have let it play out. That's how we all learn from our experiences, and that's how people are able to pass on their experiences because people have let things play out, and that's why they have different scenarios and different outcomes for the same situation. But yeah, sometimes we got to, especially with our kids, especially with those that we're taking care of. Because T, I know you had your little one that you were taking care
Oh
of
yeah.
for a while, and sometimes we just have to, instead of jumping in, especially with our family, whatever, just let it play out. That can be a scary thing, but
Yeah.
sit back sometimes and just, like a scary movie, just sitting there with your hands
Right.
like, oh, but sometimes, and then you open your, oh, okay, I can take that.
Right.
Sometimes. So we could keep going on and on and on with this let them theory because it's not always let them with the negative, but there's also let them with the positive because there's people who are the way they are and they behave the way they behave that's beneficial in our lives, right? They
Absolutely.
serve some purpose. That quirky behavior that gets on your nerves serves some purpose. And just give an example. My husband he is on time for everything. When I say on time, early. I'm like, why do you have to be early? And I'm the opposite. I want to be late. Not, I don't want to be late. I end up being late.
If it happens, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but we balance each other and we have figured out and stop instead of him trying to pull me over to, can you just get ready 30 minutes earlier? And me just saying, just chill, just relax. I'm gonna be there. We're like, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take separate cars to the same event. And he let me, I let him. And it played out really well. And that's how we've been doing it for years.
Wow.
You figure it out. But that behavior of his does help me recognize, okay, something I need to move a little bit quicker and get myself dressed and whatever, what have you. But my point is sometimes people are in your life in the way they are for a reason. So just stop trying to change them.
Mm-hmm.
Let them just be who they are. Because it could be beneficial for you. That person
Yeah, like
who's slow, the process,
yeah.
that may help you not jump on every opportunity and you kind of stop and think things through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the person that's slow to process. That's me. And I know that gets on my wife's nerves. But she's grown to accept me because I tend to process those things that way. It helps me grow and say, okay, now there's some things I may have to adjust to speed up how I get things done. But at the end of the day, she knows I'm slow
Some,
to get certain things done. But it works out though.
that's
It
what,
works out.
yeah. Sometimes
It
your
works out.
might save you guys if something goes wrong and you're like, well, let me think about this. Let me think about the best way to do it. It might save you thousands and thousands of dollars on a
Right.
bill. You just never know
Right.
because you want to process things. You want to, okay, give me some more details. I need some more information so I can fully understand the situation and make an informed and intelligent decision. And she may be like, okay, can we just just pick one, just pick one. And you're like, wait. I'm not saying that's the situation, but I'm just saying,
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
you're like, wait a minute, I gotta figure out what's going on. And and it's not that you miss anything, it's just that that behavior can be beneficial. That's what I was saying. I found.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we could talk about this for a long time, but because there's so much out there. So one thing that we want to leave you with is just don't carry around things that aren't yours. That's the simplest way you can put it. Let people be their authentic self, let them find a safe place to show up, and then you see who they are and you decide how you want what your next move is going to be. Any Bobby and Tonya, you want to leave our audience with anything?
Tony, you can go ahead.
I think if you let them, you'll truly become your authentic self, because the fact that you're entertaining and you keep picking it up, you're not going to never become who you're supposed to be.
Okay.
Well said. Well said. And I mean, for me, take the time to work on yourself. You're just as important as the situations you're trying to handle. But if you don't have a handle on yourself, you won't be able to determine what to grab and what not to grab, what to say and what not to say. It's very important that you put yourself in a position to say, hey, I may not like that, but it's all good. Let it be. I may be disappointed, but it is what it is. Let that play out. Let that play out. And shouts out to Mel Robbins
Yeah,
for
shout
the
out.
for
Definitely,
the
yeah, because that was
for the
that.
podcast. This was very beneficial.
Yep.
It's something we're going to continue to work on because I
Yep.
know it's still in the forefront of my mind, and it's going to be something that I continuously work on letting them.
Yep.
Wow, our discussion has come to an end, and I do hope that our audience was able to take away a nugget or two and begin the process or even think about the process of letting them. Catch us on all our platforms that you use to listen to your podcast, as well as our Facebook and our Instagram pages. And you can drop us a note and let us know what you thought about today's topic. As always, stick to your boundaries and protect your peace.